It's unicorn time. Alright, what do we got today? Handy dandy handhelds. The A1 Unicorn from ZPG. They're doing it. The original 1-to-1 aspect ratio Android handheld. The RG Cube from Anbernic really had something going on, and they came in and took the idea and ran with it and made something really awesome. And this is such a great handheld overall, but it has its flaws and it's a little pricey. And so if you want something that's going to come in at a cheaper price point, $130, with a little slower processor with the G99 inside of it, but holding its own, not having light bleed, having no cardinal snapping with the sticks, having pretty solid controls overall. Not perfect, we're going to talk about this, but the A1 Unicorn is an interesting handheld to discuss. In my testing now, I've had it for, God, I don't know, a month, 2 months? I need to check my emails. So this is going to be not so much maybe a deep dive review as just a experience of the device. All right, let's hop in. All right, time to unbox this bad boy. So they sent along a few different accessories. So for $11 extra here, you can get the grip if you want, which I find the texture on the grip pretty nice, and also it helps with a little bit of the ergo and comfort factor. So I'm a fan of the grip. I usually have been playing with that on. They also sent this case here, which is a pretty nice quality zippered case and protects the device well. Also comes with a charge cord, screen protector, instruction manual. ZPG did let me know that all the units from now on are going to be the 6GB configuration of RAM with 128GB of storage. If you're interested, another place you can find this is from GoGameGeek. It's $199.99 there, but you can use our RH15 discount code as always to bring that price down. Looking at specs on this, the face buttons are a clicky style micro switch, and I don't love that. Nothing wrong with clicky buttons, of course, but I just prefer the mushy rubber membrane whenever possible. Shoulder buttons are in line, but they work well, and they're right there. L1, R1, L2, and R2 are feeling good. Minimal bump out on the back. Now let's move over and check out this D-pad. On Contra, it works pretty well here, but it's a little sensitive, and you are going to be careful because you're pivoting the left and the right corners and getting some extra movement there. Trying out Street Fighter, I'm able to get Hadoukens at about a 60% success rate here. As far as testing goes for that D-pad, yeah, it's okay. Looking at a third test though, this is the real clincher, is Celeste, and I'm just having problems. Now, I have gotten better at this game over time, just a bit anyways, and so here I'm struggling once again to get through these different sections of the game with this D-pad, and the face buttons are really what makes this tough. I'm just not able to quite get in sync to make some of these movements. So there's my embarrassing gameplay for you. The screen quality is really nice here. Again, nice crisp pixels, pretty good viewing angles, and again, we're looking at the same IPS we're used to on the Cube and the RG30 as far as I can tell. The brightness levels get bright enough to be able to play outside and dim enough to be able to play in bed. And looking at a refresh rate test, we are getting a solid 60 Hz refresh rate. Listening to the speakers, if there's any ambient noise, these speakers, I'm happy to say, have zero noise, no static, no issues at all. Perfect speakers, no noise. The speaker quality, let's go ahead and take a quick listen. We're not hearing much bass there. The mids are okay. The treble is very strong here. It sounds clear, it sounds crisp, but not the best speakers I've heard by any means. They are front firing, and so you're going to want to be careful not to cover them with your palms when you're gaming. They're serviceable speakers and they are stereo. Ergonomics are okay, there is a bump out, but my hands in testing in the last few months here have definitely gotten cramped. I have played in bed and that works pretty well. You can get the brightness nice and dim there. But with how loud the face buttons can get, all the clickety-clackety, yeah, I don't know if that's going to be for me. Now, looking at weight comparisons, you have the Z1 Unicorn coming in at 253 grams, a little bit more than the advertised weight. at 225. You have the Q coming in at 259, and the 20SX at 226. Lastly, RGB30 at 212, the lightest of the bunch. Now taking a look at the software side of things, you have your standard Wi-Fi, Bluetooth. You have different performance modes. I left it in normal mode for the most part because the CPU governor does tend to get what it needs as you're playing. You can switch to performance mode if you're going to be doing a lot of Switch or Vita, even high performance mode, but you don't need to cap it out because the battery efficiency is not great here, and so any way you can preserve the battery is helpful. So normal mode for the most part works. You can turn the fan off to save power, but it does get fairly warm without that. So there is a fan there, and here's what it sounds like. On my early model here, on the white model, this one really came with nothing on it, and so I did set it all up here. I've loaded Beacon Launcher as the front end and set it to launch as the home launcher. So it just boots right up, and I got all the access to my Android games, my emulation stuff, streaming stuff, whatever you need. Beacon has been awesome, and I've been really enjoying it here on the Cube. I also, for this 1:1 aspect ratio display, there's other front ends that can work too. You can try something like Digesho, which has a few themes that will work for this display size, but many of the other ones I tried just really aren't made for this screen ratio. Now you will want to check your joystick calibration, so I recommend coming in here to calibration after you open the Game Tester app, see if you're getting any dead zone issues, and calibrating it here. It only takes a few minutes, and you can adjust for any dead zone that you have to deal with. Here's a quick clip showing just when I first got this, I did have some dead zone issues, and I needed to dial it in for Vita especially. I noticed here in Persona 4 Golden. I needed to set the radius of dead zone and centering deviation to offset that. And then it was fine, and it's been great since. Let's move over and play some games. So starting out with Android, some Android games are not going to scale super well to this display, you're going to notice. It depends on a per game basis what's going to be playable. Grim Valor works here, Brotato, Super Meat Boy Forever is a lot of fun, although it doesn't scale, and so it is teeny tiny. Dead Cells I could not get to work. Android gaming was a little hit or miss. Not only that, but the Play Store, while Google Play is included, my unit here does not have it registered, and so it was working for the first month or so, and then an update hit, and I need to fix that. So just be aware, you might need to mess around with the registration of your Google services on here. But you can always sideload APKs if you run into issues. And what's great for this display? Well, Pico 8 is just made for this. It looks gorgeous. Gorgeous. Game Boy and Game Boy Color here also look really nice on the display. One of my favorite games, Amazing Tater. And for Game Boy Color, taking a look at Gex and Bionic Commando. Bright, vivid colors. I don't recommend Game Boy Advance for this aspect ratio, but it does work just fine. GameCube, now in GameCube you can configure Dolphin to make use of its widescreen patches to scale to this 1:1 display and make it native. It doesn't work in all games, sometimes it looks a little funny, but it's pretty cool. Here's Alien Hominid, which is running very well, and Mario Kart Double Dash. GameCube has been a highlight on this device in general, and I've been having fun with that. N64 has performed fairly well in here. You are going to get some black bars being a 4.3 system, but the sticks and everything work fine. And looking at Super Nintendo, so this is another one that's great on this display. So you can do a native 8:7, the native original SNES resolution, which scales really nicely here. Looking at some Donkey Kong Country. Dreamcast performance was solid, and looking at PlayStation 1, and you do get haptic feedback there, which feels solid. The rumble motor in here is not amazing. It does give you the desired effect. Ape Escape is a good game to test both the joysticks, and we can get full range of motion here. Both sticks are performing really well. DS performance on here works very well. Looking at some Castlevania Dawn of Sorrow there. And then on the 3DS side, looking at Alien Chaos 3D, and yeah, it's not perfect speed on all the games here, but 3DS performed fairly admirably. you are just going to need to dial in your settings, and I'm using Lime 3DS in this instance. PSP, people are going to be upset by this, but you can stretch it to not have the black bars and have really thin characters, but PSP plays on here no problem. Just to upset Rob the Retro Tech Dad and probably everyone else watching, here's Burnout Legends. Stretched, and also, well, there's also this. I call it Stubbs Challenge. Can you beat the level? Let me know in the comments below. Many of the Vita games were running much better than I expected. It's going to be a little small on this display since we're going to have some black space and some black bars up and down, but I was very surprised with how well Vita was working on here. 10-Second Ninja, Persona 4 Golden, Super Meat Boy, A Virus Named Tom, among others, and the Vita exploration on here was a lot of fun. Also, Nintendo Switch surprisingly works on here. Many of the indie titles for Nintendo Switch are playable and work well. Cuphead is a standout. You have even more Celeste if you want. And Hades, although Hades was getting some slowdown. So it's going to be a little hit or miss on this G99 chip. It's a bit underpowered, but it is fun that it works here at all. And to finish things out today, let's look at PS2. Now, I've been playing one of the games of the month, Devil May Cry, and also our RPG of the quarter in our Discord, which is Final Fantasy X. Now here I have PS2 stretched. This is not one that natively is able to hit this resolution, and so there is just a little bit of distortion in the pixels, and so you probably want to leave that off. I don't mind the ratio here, and it fills the screen. It makes it easier for my eyeballs to see. And PS2 on here has been fairly competent in the games I've been testing, but games like Tony Hawk's Proving Ground, unfortunately, not so hot. Real stuttery mess. I don't know if we can do much better there. Looking at heat and temps, yeah, after playing some high-end Switch emulation in Vita, this is going to be getting a little warm. It's not scorching hot or anything, especially if you keep that fan running, but it does get noticeably warm, so just watch out for that. Performance on here, though, is really going to be hit or miss once you hit those upper systems. The G99, not going to hold a candle to the Unisoc T820 that's in the RG Cube. It will be a decent step above the RK3566 that's in the RGB30. So you kind of got a middle-of-the-road handheld here. It's a mid-range device for sure, and it just depends what you're looking for. If you want the ultimate Pico 8 machine, I still might choose the RGB30 over this, actually. But it's an interesting device, and so I'm glad I had a chance to play with it here. Battery life overall has not been amazing. I have gotten about 4 to 6 hours on it, but for Android and the size of the battery, I expect just a little bit more on that. And so that's something I'd like to see in a follow-up device, or at least some software OTA updates that tweak that a bit better. I wanted to mention before we get out of here, I did test streaming, Game Pass and GeForce Now. They just don't scale well to this display. It's just not a good experience, and so I do not recommend streaming unless you don't mind black bars and you're squinting at the text. So, no. So yeah, all in all, having said everything, do I recommend that you pick up the A1 Unicorn? This is a tinkerer's handheld for a tinkerer. The performance you're getting on tap here is worth the money. The G99 for $130, yes, I recommend it. It's worth the money. For tinkerers, I recommend. For casual users, newcomers to the hobby, friends, relatives, this is not the one for you. I think it's going to be a bit much to get it all going. While it could be fun and a fun learning process, it more than likely might be a headache. Even me, who's experienced in this stuff, and I've used these handhelds for so many years now, it was a bit of a headache to get everything configured. And so, having said that, I personally have enjoyed the handheld, and it's one I'm keeping in my collection. The purple one, mind you. Please, ZPG, bring this back. This purple. Oh, chef's kiss. That's been my thoughts on the ZPG A1 Unicorn. Do let me know what you think in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to stay in the know for your favorite retro handhelds. And a special thanks to our channel members, patrons, and subs for making this channel possible. Perks with RH start for as little as $3 a month. Join us in our Discord to chat and play games. But until the next time, thank you so much for watching. This has been Stubbs with RH. Take care of those handhelds, everybody. And each other.